Hello, everybody. Welcome to Leader Tips Live. I'm super excited to share with all of you on today. I'm really excited to see you. I'm just waiting for everybody to come on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I almost forgot what platforms I'm all on, but I'm super excited to have you guys here and for us to talk about life and leadership. It's going to be awesome tonight. So let me just get a few housekeeping rules. Number one is I want you to comment. I want to hear what you have to say as it relates to what we're talking about tonight. I love taking questions. This is what the purpose of Leader Tips Live is, for me to engage with you and hear things that you have going on and questions you have about life and leadership. So it's going to be super fun tonight. But first and foremost, I want to do one quick housekeeping thing. This awesome shirt I have on, as you can see, is my brother's shirt. My brother has a song out. He has a song out right now called Ain't Nobody Mad. So if you hadn't gone and listened to Ain't Nobody Mad on all platforms, on Spotify, on Apple Music, go listen to his song. It's an amazing song. My brother's been doing some awesome stuff. And also you can support what he's doing. You can go, his website is jordandscott.com. So you can go on his website, jordandscott.com, and purchase a shirt. And so just go and support my brother. And yeah, it's going to be fun tonight. As I said, once again, share, like, do all those things tonight, because we're going to talk about a few things. So there's two or three things that I'm going to mainly talk about. First, I'm going to share about some things that's been on my mind as it relates to this coming school year and education. I know there's a lot of people that have anxieties and thoughts about what's happening right now as it relates to education and as it relates to what people are trying to do in preparing for the school year and all those different things. And I know everybody has some different opinions about how the school year should go or is going to go. So I think it's important for us to actually have some scope about that. And let's talk about the issue and engage in many ways to make sure that gets done. So first of all, I just want to share some of my thoughts. Number one, as everybody knows, the school year is about to start for some people in the next 2 to 3 weeks. For some people, it's going to start a little bit later. And all of us know that right now, a lot of people have anxieties because of everything that's been happening with COVID-19. As we have seen in the recent weeks, over 3 million cases have happened at this point. Millions of people have recovered, which is great and fantastic. I mean, bravo for that, that millions of people have recovered and have been good. But on the other side there still is a lot of people contracting this virus, and a lot of people having a lot of fears concerning what's happening right now. The second part of that is one of the big issues that we're dealing with or facing right now as it relates to this issue of COVID-19 is that there's some states that haven't been testing as much. There's some states that haven't been doing as much as it relates to this issue. And they haven't really been proactive about testing. And so we're still having some issues and some lag about funding and all those different things. And depending on where you live, there can be a different policy as it relates to social distancing and all those different things. And so this is such an interesting moment that we're living in as it relates to what's happening with the coronavirus and everything surrounding that issue. And now we have this situation where people are prepared to take their kids back to school or send their kids back to school. And I know it's super complicated for a lot of parents because I had a parent actually share this with me. She's a really good friend of mine. She said that she's not sure because she's wondering, do the schools have the resources to actually keep the school classrooms clean? Do they have the resources to take care of all students? Like, will kids be required to wear masks? Will their child, if they don't go to school in person, how would the online process work? And so people are debating whether or not this is a good time. And it brings up another significant issue that I think that the virus is exposing. And I'm, as someone who actually did his senior paper in college in my undergrad on education reform, one of the big things that I share in this paper is about the educational disparities that we see across the board. Obviously, there are so many significant issues as it relates to education where people and kids are not getting the type of quality education that they deserve and that they need as a result of lack of funding. Even as I live here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there's about 4 or 5 school districts in this particular area. And even in the city, there's several school districts, and then you have private schools. And depending on what school district you're in, or where you live in the city, you go to a different district. And depending on where you live, as I said, there's a chance you may or may not get the best support or the quality education that you're looking for and your child is looking for. And we're dealing with the disparity of quality education in America because we don't invest into education as we should. And then on the other side, we're dealing with whether or not we're struggling with quality education. But then now with COVID, you have this whole other situation where parents are like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to send my child to school or sending my child to school, even though their school is not that great. I'm sending them there to get an education, all these different things, and they're not experiencing the best quality education. Now I have this other problem where the school can't afford to get all the extra products. Like teachers in some states are not paid enough to have the money to sanitize their class all the time and all these different things. And so we're dealing with this issue. It is going to be so interesting with education this year, whether it is at the university level, whether it is at the high school and middle school level. It's going to be so interesting because we don't know what's going to happen. And what tends to happen, especially right now, we all can attest to this at school, especially elementary and middle and high schools, because of the spacing on those properties and on those campuses. There's a greater chance children might be exposed to other people who might have contracted COVID or come in contact with people who have COVID-19. And so there's a lot of fear right now. There are a lot of parents that are opting out to keep their kids at home. And then there's some people that are like, I can't afford to have my child at the house because I have to work all day. And if my kid is at the house, then we have this other problem going on where my child is at home and I'm using really school for childcare in a sense. And so we're having this consistent problem going on as it relates to education and how we're trying to deal with the realities of educational disparities. And here's the thing. We all have to be honest about what's happening when it comes down to education and what's happening in our culture as it relates to this issue. They're not going to get federal funding. Like we already know this. Schools are not going to get the federal funding that they need to mitigate this problem or manage this problem. The federal government and our leaders have threatened to take away funding from schools if they don't open up. We have a serious problem as it relates to leadership in this area of education because we're seeing that people are threatening to force schools' hand to actually take care of these issues. And this is a serious issue. As I said, a lot of parents are panicking right now. And, I want people to comment, share what your thoughts in the comment section, because I really want to hear from you as it relates to this subject of education going into the school year. But people are really, really afraid of what can and might happen as it relates to this issue. And we all know somebody or are connected to somebody who's been affected by the decisions that are being made at the educational level, whether it is federal, whether it is state, whether it's local. Everybody is on edge as it relates to education. Everybody's trying to figure out, what are we going to do to ensure that these kids have a productive and healthy school year and be taken care of? Somebody asked me this question: what should parents do going into the school year? And I honestly think that parents should decide what is best for them and their family at this particular moment, because you just don't know what might happen. And I'm seeing a lot of people come on right now. What's up, Dre? How you doing, man? And Ralph and Robert and Bree. Hey, babe. And Raheem. And it's good to see everybody who's on here. And if you're joining, I want you to put questions in the comment section. I definitely want to hear from you. I'm going to answer your questions that you have related to life and leadership, and even this conversation about education that I'm talking about tonight, because it's such a pivotal and crucial issue as we go into the school year in the next few weeks. It's going to be very important that leaders actually take the importance of this issue to heart. And here's the thing. When it comes down to people's education, it is so important that it is quality and they get the best out of it. Because when everything happened, a lot of people fell into a situation where they did not necessarily benefit from or enjoy the process of, some people fell behind in school, really. There's a lot of kids that fell behind as a result of what we were doing with education. A lot of kids fell behind. A lot of kids kind of skated on through to graduation. Like, a lot of kids were affected significantly because some of them couldn't finish this last school year. So now you're saying, I got to send my kid back to school, and they hadn't even finished the first one. They haven't finished the previous year. So we're having this issue. We're having these discussions about whether or not this is going to be successful. And this is why I can't stress this enough. I think the next 2 or 3 times that I get on here before November, I'm going to be encouraging everyone to register to vote. Like, your school board, the people that represent your children, your superintendent, your school board president, all the members of the school board, depending on where you live, you are affected by their decisions, and you need leadership from these individuals to ensure that your children are protected, that your children, your cousins, your friends, even you personally, if you're going to school right now, you personally want to know if your school is being concerned about your own personal protection. Because you have a fundamental problem if you go back to school and there has not been any precautionary measures taken to ensure that you and your family and your friends are protected in these spaces. Because here's the thing, cases are going to go up. I mean, it's kind of the reality of this present moment, because depending on where you live, there's some places that are very open right now and they're seeing spiking cases. There's some places that are even more closed right now and they're still seeing spikes in cases based on where people are and everybody's compliance with federal law and rules and different things like that. And it's super important that we all understand that we cannot be successful in this process when it comes down to the school year if we don't have a federal standard, if we don't have leadership from local elected officials, state elected officials, our federal government. Like, it is so important that people are registered to vote in for November, because your whole school board could be depending on it. Like, everything that's happening in your local area is affected by whether or not you have the right type of leadership doing the right things in spaces where you're being affected. And it's super important. It's super important. It should be a priority for all of us to actually put demands and put pressure on local leadership to do things to protect our family members and ourselves. Like, this school year is going to be an interesting one. You know, just recently we saw how Major League Baseball has started playing games. And literally within the first week or so, they've had to postpone several games because players have gotten COVID. And we don't know from where, but players have gotten COVID as a result of being just out and doing stuff. And we know that's going to happen. People are just going to get it. But this thing is that serious. This thing is this complex. And I think it's super important that we keep some perspective in this conversation as it relates to this issue. And we have to keep talking about it, because as the school year goes on, as the school year gets started, it's going to be super important that your cousins, your friends, you are protected when you're going back to school. There's a friend of mine who's a teacher, and she shared with me that like she has not gotten any extra funds specifically for the school year. Like this school year, she does not know what it's going to take for her to clean the classrooms. She literally said she had to figure out how to budget out and do all these things to ensure that her classroom is clean, so that when these children, she teaches, I think, first or second grade, if I'm not mistaken. Like when these kids come into her classroom, they're not getting infected. And come on now, young kids, let's be real, young kids are not thinking about their safety in their regard. They're not thinking about if they're going to get sick. They're not thinking about if they're going to be affected by all these different things. They are not concerned about that. They're simply not thinking about that. That's simply not coming across their mind. And so when it comes down to this issue, we have to be vigilant and do the work. That's why it's so important for people. You got to register to vote, y'all. I know it seems like a broken record and everybody's having so much fear about this particular election and this election cycle. The reality is, if you don't vote and thousands of people have that same mindset of not voting, it ensures that the type of people that you want to get elected to office won't get elected to office because we're not getting out and supporting them. And as I've said many, many times, it's down ballot issues that are affecting your life more than anything. All politics are local. If you don't vote for the mayor of your town, if you don't vote for the superintendent of the school board, if you don't vote in these local elections and all these different things, it affects everything that happens. It affects whether or not the kids get a school bond to raise money for better, facilities at schools, like sponsorships. It affects all these things. And that is super important for us to realize as it relates to this issue. And as we talk about education, it's going to take everybody being involved, all hands on deck. It's going to take everyone trying to do what they can to ensure that all of our kids are safe, all of our people are safe, everybody's productive. So with all that being said, I want to hear from you. I want to see your questions as it relates to life and leadership, and as it relates to this is hello, Keisha. And I just want to hear from you. And I want you to put your comments in the comment box, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Instagram, whether it is on YouTube. Just put your comments in the comment section and I'll answer your questions as it relates to what's going on with education, as it relates to what's going on in life and leadership. There's been a lot of stuff that's been happening this summer, even though people haven't been able to go out and do certain things. It's been very interesting, just how the quarantine and people having to live life a little bit different, how it has affected the way we communicate it. For those people who may care or may not care, in the last week or so, because I had the time to do it, it's on Netflix now. I got a chance to watch The Last Dance. Now, I know some people watched this months ago, but I don't have ESPN readily available to me. But I got to watch The Last Dance and see how great of a team the Bulls were, man. It is amazing to me how cold-blooded Michael Jordan was. And now I understand why people say he's the greatest of all time. Like, it's insane. But needless to say, put your comments in the comment section. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions as it relates. Oh, about to make somebody mad. I want to hear your comments as it relates to this topic, life and leadership. And I'm ready for you, Raheem. Say whatever you got to say, big dog. I want to hear what you have to say. But as it relates to life and leadership, I want to hear from you. And I think that we all can benefit from us engaging in conversations as it relates to life and leadership, and us trying to figure out how to make a difference in the world and do great things. So put your comments in the comment section. I want to hear from you on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I want to hear how you feel about what's going on how people are doing. I think right now, more than anything, everybody is searching and looking for connection. We're all desperate to engage and encounter people and do different things so that we can be productive and healthy in our relationships as it relates to just this life, man. It is so important that we all feel productive and healthy and encouraged and motivated right now. Like right now seems like a moment where we just need to reflect. Like next week is August, y'all. We're about to go into the fourth quarter of the year. And it's going to be super important that we have the right perspective as it relates to the fourth quarter of the year. And we doing different things, whether it is school in later in the year, whether it is relationships, whether it is how we're going to look at financial situations. There's been so much stress and anxiety about everything that's been going on in our culture and our society. And it's super important that we have the right perspective about who we are and what we can do and how impactful we can be. And I think it's going to be healthy for us to really, really, really focus in on the impact we want to make and the impact we want to give to people. And I think it's going to be super important. It's going to be super important that we have perspective about what is going on in our culture, what is going on in society, what is going on in our particular spaces and the world today. And right now, it seems like the world is looking for answers as it relates to the issue of leadership. We have failures in leadership right now. You know, we're now seeing some of our elected officials change their tune because their states are being affected even more by decisions that they failed to make earlier. Like leaders are starting to step back and say, well, okay, I can't keep saying that this is not happening. Like people's lives are on the line. People are being affected so deeply and profoundly by some people's lack of leadership. Oh, I have a great question. First of all, thank you for giving the question, Raheem. He said, should teachers protest against opening schools back up? That's an interesting question. Personally, I think that teachers should have equity in the decisions that are being made about their classrooms. We saw a few months back, I think it was either this year or last year, teachers actually went on strike here in Oklahoma because of concerning teachers' pay and trying to get some things changed. Now, you know, I fundamentally believe that protest is the language of the unheard. That's something Dr. Martin Luther King said. Protest and rioting is the language of the unheard. And one thing that, as it relates to teachers, I think teachers, yes, they should consider having conversations with their leaderships at their school or even statewide saying, hey, I don't necessarily want to teach this year this way. No, I think they'll be up to teachers unions. I think that should be up to teachers groups specifically at that school if they feel like they're not getting the right type of support from school boards and different organizations across the state. I see nothing wrong with teachers protesting. They are some of the most important people in our society. And if I haven't said this, teachers are the most, there's a lot of things being said, but teachers are some of the most important people in our society. You cannot truly have great leaders without them having teachers. Like everybody has been taught by a teacher. Every doctor, every basketball player, every politician, every lawyer, like they have been influenced by somebody that has taught them something. Even right now, what I'm doing right now with Leader Tips, right now I'm in grad school. Some of you may know, I'm in grad school, get my master's in leadership. One of the things that I'm learning in grad school is that this process of gaining information and being taught by one of my professors, Dr. Ramo, it has nourished my brain and nourished my mind to think a different way. Teachers, their responsibility in their job is to make sure that you and I think higher and think a different way. And I think when we don't invest in our teachers and don't protect teachers, we create a lot more problems in the long run, and we don't help them get the things that they need as it relates to this idea of education. And I think one of the big primary problems is that some of them are underpaid and they're not given the right resources, especially now. They're not being given the right resources to take care of this issue. They're just simply not. And we have to do something about ensuring that teachers are taken care of and they're able to do the things they need to do. As I said earlier, you can put your questions in the comment section. I am ready to answer them. I might be on here a few more minutes and then I'm gonna deuces, but but you can definitely put your questions in the comment section. Yes, I do think teachers, it should be an option for teachers to protest. I'm firmly for teachers making their requests known and making sure people understand the seriousness of what's going on and how they feel, and the impact of schools' decisions as it relates to them in their classroom and what's going to be happening with them. I think there's nothing wrong with teachers saying, hey, I'm not going to teach this year because you're not giving me the resources to ensure that number one, I don't get sick, and number two, my children don't get sick. And teachers do care about their kids not being sick. And I care. You know, one thing I think I benefit from with me getting my master's, it's strictly online. So I don't have to go into a classroom, but I feel for teachers and kids and families where they have to go into a classroom right now. Like I said, man, it's a scary situation. There has not been, I don't know, and maybe somebody can put this in the comments and you can let me know if there's some teachers watching or educators or people in administration that are watching. Please put your comments in the comment section, because I want to hear from you. Because one of the things that I worry about right now, especially with teachers, as it relates to teachers, I worry that that no one has done their due diligence to ensure that if they did go back to school, if they did go back to the classroom, they're protected and the kids are protected. I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell me, but I haven't seen anything or any reports or anything related to this issue where teachers have the reassurance that they are protected. Like there are tons of people who probably would hear what I'm saying right now and would agree that this is a scary moment for families. This is a very, very nerve-wracking moment for families. But I think this moment is going to create a lot of creativity. I think this moment, when we see education, is going to cause people to actually push for reform in education. You know, one of the biggest problems I feel like in public education right now is that there's no space for reform in ways that actually caters to kids' needs and not what we think they should know. There's a lot of information in public education that kids really don't necessarily have to know. But we need to be giving them things that they need to know. Right now, one of the biggest things I think we need to put in education, we need to have entrepreneurship classes in elementary school. We need to bring back things like home ec and carpentry and trades in public education. You know why? Because it gives people the dignity of work and it gives them an opportunity to invest in themselves. And I think one of the biggest problems is we're teaching people things that they may not ever use. I know I need to take geometry. I get it. But if I'm never planning on becoming a mathematician, or I never plan on doing certain things, that's not going to benefit me. We need to teach entrepreneurship in public education. First of all, we need to teach financial literacy. I don't understand why we don't generally have financial literacy class. Now, there may be some people who are watching right now. You took a financial literacy class. I didn't. My public high school, Murrah High School, Murrah Mustangs, we're better than Callaway, and I don't care what nobody say. in Jackson, I don't remember us ever having a financial literacy class. There was no financial literacy classes. There was no class about entrepreneurship in high school or in middle school. There were no classes about just like literal life stuff. And people are leaving school without life skills. The reality is everybody's not going to go to college. Let's be real about that. Let's stop pushing everybody to college. Everybody doesn't need to go to college. Let's stop pushing everybody to college. We need to figure out how to reform education in a way that is productive. I was having a conversation with somebody at work today, and she literally said this to me, and I thought it was very interesting. She said, she's from Iran, and she said in her country, they have a different type of system where they have like funnel systems, where when you're a junior, like a junior in high school, junior or senior in high school, they have you take a competency test or something equivalent of. And there are several countries that do this. You take a competency test, and that test will either determine one or two things, or several things actually. Either they encourage you to go to the military and serve for 2 years. I think we should definitely consider encouraging people to do civil service, whether it's military, whether it's Peace Corps, whether it's Job Corps, whether it's AmeriCorps. Give people the dignity of work. That's one thing. They either push you that way, or if you have good enough scores or you score certain aptitude, they send you to university, or they send you to college, or give you all the options as it relates to that. If that's not good for you, they send you to a trade school so that you can get a job. We don't currently, in certain ways, we don't fund trade schools as much, or vocational schools. You know, I remember a few years ago, we had some push at the federal level to try to put money into trade schools and vocational schools so that people can actually be beneficiaries of a better and productive life. Bro, everybody don't need to go to a 4-year institution. And this is somebody who's getting his master's. Everybody doesn't need to go there. That should not be the bar for success. And we're starting to see even more. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who don't even have degrees. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who got a degree in one thing and their business is in something completely different. Completely. They're not even doing what they went to school for. But that shows you that we have to reform the educational system in such a systemic way that it benefits everybody that's being affected by it. And here's the other thing as it relates to that: university, vocational schools, civil service, and military. There's 4 different ways people can live productive lives. And we should even consider putting money into educational apprenticeships. And what I mean by that is the idea that when people go to a particular space, if they want to be a business owner, if they want to learn how to grow a business, we should have a lane or space for them where they don't necessarily have to go to college. They can go to a program for 9 months or 2 years, and it prepares them to start a business. This is how you benefit people's lives. Education is a powerful thing. I know tonight I said I was going to talk about education and voting to some degree in this upcoming school year, but I think this is some things that we can practically do right now to help people and change people's lives for the better. Like I said, put your comments in the comment section if you have any questions. I want to hear from you. I'm about to shut it down in a few minutes, but I want to hear from you because this thing is just that important. It is important that people understand that your educational experience and the exposure that you have in your life has an effect on your ability to progress and go forward. And everybody don't need to do it the same way. Everybody doesn't need to experience that the same way. Everybody does not learn the same way. There are 4 types of learning. There's kinesthetic learning, which is learning with your hands. There is audio learning, which means learning with your ears. There is visual learning, which is learning with these 2 eyes. And then there's another learning that I'm a big fan of, and personally that I experience and I've learned the best in is experiential learning, which means that I have to be in the situation for me to really understand what this thing is or how to function in the space. And that's super important for us to understand tonight, is that when it comes down to this idea of education or growth or us moving forward, we got to be willing, man. We got to be willing to reform the system. Education has to be reformed now. You know, I'm looking at everything that's going on right now. The system is being forced towards reform. The system is going to be required to be reformed. And that's what's important. And I think, you parents out here, I pray for you, man. I'm hoping that you are making decisions that will benefit your kids in the long run. There's some parents that are right now are really torn on how they feel about what's going on and how they're going to do what they need to do. And it's going to take a lot of people being engaged and involved in the process so that people can actually see that this is super important, that your kids' safety is super important, that if people at the state, local, and federal level won't prioritize your children, you need to hold them accountable in November. Like, if you ain't registered to vote, man, you can't hold them accountable. You can't get mad if they make a decision as it relates to your child's education if you are not willing to vote in November. It is simply time for everybody to get involved and be concerned about what's happening at the local level when it comes down to education. Education is a powerful thing. You know, the United Negro College Fund slogan is, they say, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. That quote is so real, because we got to ensure that people are using the full capacity of their minds. We want to have a wealthy and productive and progressive mind. You want your mind to grow. You want your mind and your awareness and your knowledge base to grow so that you can be a productive and effective and powerful and a provocative citizen to make a difference in the world. That's what we want to do. And that's who we need to be as it relates to this issue. And we have to have a conversation and be honest with ourselves as it relates to this issue. So as I close, there are just three things I want to ask of you. Number one, if you have not done it, please go register to vote in your state. Please go register to vote in your state. Find out what local issues are on the ballot. Find out what stuff is happening as it relates to education and different things like that. Black lives do matter. Black lives still matter. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But the second point is, if you have not done it, go and subscribe to Leading with Lee, man. I'm posting content every other week as it relates to life and leadership. I've been having great conversations with different people. We have an awesome episode that's live right now with a good friend of mine, Camille Suter, who is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. She's very creative. She has a phenomenal mind. She has a business right now where she's actually is getting ready to, she does pottery. And so she makes pots, she makes different things, makes mugs. And so I want you all to go and listen to her episode. She shares about her life she has this disease called AMPS, which is a muscular disease that actually affects the way that she's able to live her life. And I think it's a great story. And I think you'll be impacted so significantly by that. Once you go listen to hers, go on and subscribe and listen to other episodes. They're great people that I brought on. There are things that I'm sharing about. Yours truly has shared some different things. I got some great things coming down the pike as it relates to life and leadership. And on Leading with Lee, we got some things that we're thinking about doing for the next season and next year as it relates to Leading with Lee. Definitely go and subscribe today, man. Go on YouTube. It's Leading with Lee on YouTube. If you are not on YouTube all the time, definitely go on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, every platform. Go and subscribe to Leading. I think you'll be significantly impacted. And I really put my whole soul into what I'm doing. I really share my life. I really share my heart about this subject of life and leadership, because I fundamentally believe, and I say it all the time, that every person has a capacity and a level of leadership. Everybody has it. It is not for the few, it's for the many. And every single person can make an impact in their perspective place, their respective place, and show people that I can be somebody who you can look up to and being engaging and empowered by. And the third thing, I said at the beginning, if you ain't heard it yet, right now, I need you to do this for me right now. I need you to go to jordanscott.com. Go and support my brother, man. My younger brother is dope. He has t-shirts on his website right now. Go and support Jordan. It's jordandscott.com. Go to his website, buy a shirt. They're only $20. They're $20. And this sucker is comfortable too. I enjoy it. I'm going to send him this clip. They're comfortable. I want you to go and buy and support my brother in his endeavors. He's been doing some awesome stuff lately with music, and he's stepping out in that game. And even my sister, man, like my sister is, she creates jewelry. So if you're on Instagram, go on Instagram. The name of her page is called Sugar Bunny. It spells sugar like the regular way you spell sugar, but Bunny is spelled Bonny at SUGER. I think it's SUGER. If I'm not mistaken, it's either SUGERBONNY or SUGABONNY. Check either one. Go and support her. Buy jewelry from her. She can make stuff. It's super amazing and super awesome. This is what we have to do. We have to support one another and believe in each other's dreams and do what we can. I want you to go buy a shirt. I want you to subscribe to Leading. And I want you to go get registered to vote. Go get registered. It's time to put in some work, y'all. It's time to put pressure on local leadership. It's time for us to make a difference in the world. I love y'all, man. I love you. That's why I get on here once a month and share about this subject. I really love you. And I hope that you have a great night and a great rest of your week. I'm going to see y'all later. And I'm going to get out of here.